Hi, I'm Marcus. And this was me, an unimpressed kid in the middle of central western Brazil. More specifically, in the savannah, or as we say in Brazilian Portuguese, o cerrado. Well, for a non audience, this might come off as a bit more exotic than it actually is. But growing up, I was around red dirt, white skies, and I loved everything. Playing basketball and Brazilian dodgeball, which is called queimada, with my childhood friends, drawing superheroes in the back of my homework, and making my teachers realize in the worst way possible that patience is actually a virtue, and fixing my mom's computer and not really having an idea what I was doing, but still doing it anyway. And obviously, asking my mom 500 questions a day. Well, if you were to ask me when I was a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? My answer would have been a truck driver. Yeah, not an astronaut, not a doctor, not a firefighter, a truck driver. There was a friend of my family who used to be one, and at the time, I was not thinking about career paths. I was not thinking about curriculums. God, I was not thinking about posting anything on LinkedIn. At the same time, my vision in terms of that was to be a truck driver is essentially to have a job that allows you to see the country. And it is very fascinating and at the same time naive how children see these things. In the same fashion, my mom essentially graduated in accountancy. She worked many jobs in her life and she would tell me about it. But I didn't really know what accountancy was or what that meant when I was a kid. I just wanted to be like my mom. She's very kind. And this question, who are you? What do you want to be? Started getting less cute and more heavy, more sharp, more final. And essentially, it came a point where you're being asked, who do you want to be and what do you want to do for the rest of your life? At 18, I chose stories. I essentially started producing videos and music videos for rappers in my local community. And at the same time, I was doing documentaries covering homelessness and damage control for NGOs in Brasilia. Even though I was doing something that I really loved and I really appreciated, deep inside, there was always that feeling, I want to build something. I want to understand systems and solve problems that are not only these. And with that, I had my first realization that I didn't want to essentially eat just one dish from the menu. I wanted an entire buffet. So basically, identity is usually attached to career aspirations. What are you doing? What activities are you involved in? What is your profession? Engineer, doctor, truck driver. Basically, at 18, I chose films. At 23, I jumped into finance and joined a Big Four consulting firm. However, I did something even more strange. I then, working alongside a team of bio and tech engineers, I co-founded a healthcare and technology platform. And at the age of 24, I basically raised my first funding round in Silicon Valley. But the feeling, the question, was still lingering. Who are you? What do you want to do for the rest of your life? Well, 100 years ago, my country was facing the same crisis and asking itself the same question. And the answer they found is still relevant 100 years later. So picture Brazil in 1920. A young republic trying to synthesize all that it was and all that it could be into a cohesive, official identity. And at the time, well, there were many questions. Was Brazil European, indigenous, African, urban, rural, coastal, or from the interior? Was it traditional? Was it modern? The answer was all of that. Brazil was everything all at once. And in the 20s, you had the Modern Week of São Paulo. And a group of painters, poets, and artists, musicians, came together and asked the same question: who are we? Who are we going to be? There are so many things interacting, so many things colliding. Brazil was a mixture. It was a collision, it was a negotiation. And coming together, they essentially came up with one question that is also the answer. Anthropophagia. In other words, cultural cannibalism. But don't worry, you're not talking about eating anything here. But metaphorically speaking, they took the idea of a stereotype on specific indigenous groups where one would eat their adversaries and get the best qualities and the best attributes of that and incorporate within itself. So then you could become something new, something uniquely ours, that takes the best of everything and turns into this new identity. And that's what I came up with. Movimento antropofágico. And looking back and thinking about the history of my country, that actually resonated with me. The mixture, the collision, and the ultimate question was, being everything all at once, is that a flaw? Or is that the whole point? And that's what I came up with. So, this is my favorite dish in Brazil. It's called Brazilian feijoada. It's a mix of everything that you wouldn't expect. Oranges, black beans, kale, rice, and pork. All in the same plate. They obviously work separately. You could have one or the other. But this dish, they're all at the same time. And it's great. And this epitomizes this very idea where you bring different sources, different feuds, and you just build hybridity. And I want to offer a framework tonight, which we call Devour, Digest, Deliver. So Devour is in terms of all the attributes that you carry, all the attributes that you are, all of your ingredients, you just devour them. Basically, everything that makes you, you. And you take your failures, you take your interests, you take your hobbies, you take your frustrations, you take your career, you take your tastes, and you put it all together and you devour it. Just like Brazilian modernists did back in the day. Their answer was not, let's reject Europe, let's copy Europe. They decided to digest it. They decided that incorporation is a mechanism for transformation. And you can just put everything together and become something new. And on that basis, digest is where the contradictions meet. KPIs meet empathy. If you look at spreadsheets, they can essentially meet art. And Cerrado Kid meets Women Tech Founder. And in terms of deliver, it's all the things that it's in the back of your head. It's the startup that you want to launch. It's the new identity that you want to explore. It's the new show you want to do. It's the new project that we call side projects that we want to essentially eventually deliver. And on that basis, one might ask, why now? AI is rewriting industries faster than universities can update their syllabi. Careers, they look more like spaghetti than straight lines. And when you look at all of this, and you picture how the world is changing every single day, we're all bringing different tastes, different interests, different backgrounds, different walks of life. And when you put this together, you can create this new thing that is uniquely yours. And on the basis of that reasoning, I realized that innovation is not necessarily disruption, it's digestion. And I would like to bring a quote of one of my favorite Brazilian artists alive. Em Portuguese, quanto mais eu como, mais fome eu sinto. Or in English, the more I eat, the hungrier I get. And I'd like to take tonight to invite you to Devour. Thank you very much.